Hi everyone. A couple weeks ago I asked people to submit questions for a Q&A, the first Q&A I'd ever done. I'd taken requests for videos before, but never really strictly a Q&A. So for my 5-year anniversary I decided let's do a Q&A. So I had 8 people ask me questions, so I'd like to give their A's, my A's, to their Q's. First we have a gentleman who goes by many names, but the one most commonly known is of course the Artist V1. His first question is, Bill and Ted's Phone Booth or Marty McFly's DeLorean? Which time travel machine is better? This sounds suspiciously like a question you've asked other people on these Q&As. Marty McFly's DeLorean is, of course, the cooler time machine, and Back to the Future is the better movie. But Bill and Ted's Phone Booth is more versatile. It may not be as comfortable to sit in, but you can not only go to all kinds of different times, but all kinds of different places. And there was one other benefit to this. What was that? Oh yeah, power supply. The DeLorean requires either gasoline to run and get up to 88 miles an hour or plutonium or whatever, at 1.21 gigawatts of electricity, whereas the phone booth apparently doesn't need to be refueled. It's got some futuristic energy source that never needs to be replenished. You can use it as much as you like, and I don't know, it's like a fusion reactor or something like that, or an arc reactor, you know, like an Iron Man. Anyway, that's the more versatile of the two time travel machines. However, neither of them beat the TARDIS, because the TARDIS is a lot roomier inside. Favorite beverage? Now, I understand you like Diet Coke with lime, and I looked for that just so I could try it, but I haven't been able to find it anywhere. Sorry about that. Now, aside from cold bottled spring water, I just have to say my favorite beverage is a Nantucket nectar juice called Pineapple Orange Guava. It's very, very good. I like the Nantucket nectars a lot. I'm not really big on soda anymore, but if I drank soda, my favorite would be root beer, specifically A&W root beer, and my favorite beer would be the dark Mexican beer Negro Modelo. What recording artists do you listen to? Well, I listen to a lot of different people. Even on YouTube, there's people that I listen to regularly. There's a channel called Ricky Lind that hosts a group called Garfunkel and Oates. They're a duo of 2 actresses who write really funny and really raunchy songs. They're really great. I have them in my favorite channels on my channel page, and yeah, their songs are great. There's also Julia Nunes, who does singing and ukulele playing. She's lots of fun as well. They're both very well known on YouTube groups. As far as more world-renowned people, I usually buy a Bjork album when she puts a new album out. She put a new CD out recently, but I haven't picked it up yet. Seal is a guy that I've liked for a long time. I really like his style. Very mellow and pleasant. And there are a lot of different groups that I've liked over the years. Weird Al Yankovic, of course. Always like Weird Al Yankovic. A lot of bands and artists that I've enjoyed particular songs over the years, or even particular albums. But I don't really collect music anymore, at least, you know, since everyone's sort of like moving away from CDs and moving to MP3s. I really don't have an MP3 player to bring around with me. If I downloaded music, I just have to listen to it on my computer. So generally, if I like an artist enough, I'll get the CD instead. Biggest celeb crush? Of course, Reese Witherspoon. You know, she was like the dominant crush for me in the 90s, and I see everything that she does. Prior to that, Ali Sheedy was pretty much my first crush. Then Jennifer Jason Leigh, Drew Barrymore. Others include Michelle Williams and Amanda Seyfried. She's like the current, like, really, you know, super good-looking actress right now. Favorite Muppet? Well, what a timely question. What a very timely question. I had a Ralph hand puppet when I was a kid, so I guess he would have to be my favorite Muppet. But aside from that, I'm not really sure I have a favorite. Ralph is funny, especially in Muppets Take Manhattan. He has the encounter with a really rich guy when he's running the dog shelter. That's a favorite scene of mine. Thank you very much for your questions, Mr. Artist. Then we have Andrew Ballina from Australia. How you doing, Andrew? What are your interests outside of movies and YouTube? Well, I don't have any, really. No, I'm just joking. Any sort of project that I work on inevitably comes back to movies or YouTube in some fashion. Right now I'm working on putting together an independent movie with my brother. I've written the script. It's in good shape right now, so looking towards starting shooting in spring. Aside from that, I like to read. You know, I'll pick up the occasional novel. I read the Stieg Larsson trilogy and did a video on that, and I read Replay, which is a science fiction sort of fantasy novel, did a video on that. And Hidden in a Book recommended I check out The Left Hand of Darkness, which I did, and I did a video on that too. So it all kind of comes back to movies or YouTube, one or the other. Aside from that, you know, long walks on the beach and, you know, yeah, whatever. What is your favorite part of movie making? Directing, editing, writing, whatever? Well, you know, I mean, the thing that I like about movies is that they take so many different crafts and put them all together, and when they all work together, then it's amazing. You know, you've got the challenge of crafting a screenplay that is, you know, satisfying and interesting and exciting and surprising, and then you've got the actors who are to embody the characters and bring emotion and energy and life to that. You've got the visual style, the photography and editing. You've got the director that kind of brings everything together. Yeah, I don't know if I have one particular aspect, a favorite aspect of movies. I like clever writing, of course, but I also like clever directing, camera work, editing. I love good editing. So one particular, and of course, you know, there's certain performances that stick out as being good. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's any one particular aspect of movie making that I like more than the others. However, the one that I've been devoting myself to is writing, because you can do that at home on your computer, you know. I guess that's my favorite part, if anything. But they're all important. Final Fantasy X fan. This is Alex from Sacramento. He goes by Final Fantasy X fan. His questions are: first DVD you ever bought? Well, I just happen to have them right here. What do you know? First, there's The Game by David Fincher. And then there's Go by Doug Liman. These are the first two DVDs I ever bought. Not just because they're really good movies, but because both of these discs have both the widescreen and the full screen version on one disc, and that was very important to me back then. I said, I'm only getting DVDs that have both versions on there, you know. That's not so important to me now. Yeah, it was important then. Best film you've ever seen so far? You mean in my entire life? Probably Goodfellas. I did a top 20 best movies of all time some months ago, and Goodfellas tops the list, and it still does. There's lots of movies that I like. I have to do a top 20 at some point, because I've only done like top 10s. For all time and for best of each decade. So I should do top 20s at some point. Just knock them out one after the other. Do you collect video games? No, I do not. Sorry. I had a big video game phase when I was a kid in the 80s. Really liked video games, liked going to the arcade. Wasn't any good at playing video games, but I liked them. Favorite video game? Well, in the arcade games, that would be the old Star Wars wireframe flight simulator game where you sit in the X-Wing fighter and you travel through various Death Stars trying to blow them up, trying to avoid getting shot, picking off TIE fighters and gun turrets. I got pretty good at that game. I could get like 4 or 5 levels in before I got killed. For home game, I had a game for my Commodore 64, this is a long time ago, called Hero, which you wear a helicopter backpack and you descend into a mine shaft to rescue mine workers, and you have to avoid, you know, lava walls and stuff like that. I got pretty good at that game. I managed to get all the way to like the very final level, but only if I went like at top speed, because you have a time limit. This was a long time ago, so thanks very much for your questions. Big Al 1982, I wonder who this guy is. I'm just kidding. That's Alan from London. He is the president of the Movie Reviewers 100. Thanks very much, Al, for the questions. 3 films you would take to watch on a long journey. Well, I'd want them to be long movies and movies that I'd want to study, so I could occupy as much of my time watching the films as I would sitting in the car or bus or plane or whatever. Provided I wasn't actually driving, of course. One of these is Nixon. Nixon's a very long movie, very complicated. There's a lot to take in, a lot of information to take in, a lot of unfamiliar characters, since I wasn't really aware of what was going on during the whole Watergate thing. I really like this movie a lot, and so the opportunity to take the time to study it further would be good. Also, Inland Empire by David Lynch. That's another good one. And I think probably I could stand to watch Shay Part 1 and 2 again. I watched them recently, but I wouldn't mind watching them again just because, you know, there's so much going on in those movies that I would need a refresher to talk about them with any sort of intelligence. Last film that shocked you? Oh, that's difficult. Recently, I have to say that, you know, I haven't seen many shocking movies outright. The one that really comes to mind, of course, is The Departed, but that was like 5 years ago that movie came out. So since that time, not sure there's anything that I would really call shocking. But you know, I mean, the Departed has a number of really big surprises, especially towards the end. So I'd probably go with that one. Not a lot really shocks me. I get surprised, but shocked not that often. What makes a film legend? Well, if we're talking about a person, such as say Stanley Kubrick, that would be a person who sort of doesn't, who has demonstrated really incredible gifts as far as the craft of filmmaking, but doesn't. Terrence Malick would be another one. Guys who just sort of remove themselves from public discourse, who don't like actively participate in the publicity of films. I wouldn't say the Wachowskis qualify as film legends, but they certainly don't talk to the press very much. So people who let their films, their excellent films, speak for themselves, I would say would make a film legend. And of course people who just have like huge cult followings and just great reputations and stuff like that. You could say Scorsese is a film legend, except that A, he's already alive, and B, he's not shy about talking to people about his films, so I'm not sure that qualifies. Matthew Ross Coleman, of course. Matthew's also Movie Reviewers 100. He is from Saltcoats in Scotland. I did a little research on everybody's channel just so I could throw these facts out. What experience scarred you for life? Whoa. Okay. I got ridiculed a lot in school and pushed around a lot. And so that made me kind of afraid of people in general. Yeah, I guess you could say that it's made me somewhat socially withdrawn. So I guess that's, I've, never had anyone, I've had people, relatives of mine, pass away, but not unexpectedly, not like suddenly, tragically, horribly, anything like that. It all went pretty much according to, the nature of old age and what have you. Yeah, I would just say basically being ridiculed a lot and intimidated and terrorized in school, which doesn't happen often anymore, but I'm sort of still suffering for the effects of that. Which will be most successful, Batman, Spider-Man, or the Avengers? Now, I assume you mean the new movies that are coming out. The Dark Knight Rises, The Amazing Spider-Man, and the Avengers, which are all supposed to come out, I believe, next summer. I'm not sure about The Amazing Spider-Man. I think that comes out next summer. I would have to say that the Avengers and the new Spider-Man movie will do very well, but I think that the last Christopher Nolan Batman movie will do the best out of all of them as far as box office goes. I'm not sure that it'll be the best of the three. I'm hoping that it'll be better than The Dark Knight, because I didn't like The Dark Knight all that much. Yeah, I figured that one will make the most money. Thanks for your questions. Kern Dog 1, this is a young guy, an American high school student. He asks, if you were Steven Spielberg for one day, what would you do? Oh, that's easy. I would get in my car and I'd drive to George Lucas's house. And I'd sit him down and I'd say, look, George, you really, really, really need to release the unaltered classic trilogy on DVD and Blu-ray, okay? The unaltered version. You can do anything you want with the quality of the picture and the sound. THX the hell out of it. Just don't change anything, okay? Stop changing it, okay? A movie is like a time capsule, okay? A movie shows you what was possible as far as technical ability and what kind of sensibility the artists had back then when the movie was released, when the movie was made. If you keep changing things, it's like you're trying to rewrite history. There's an excellent documentary called The People versus George Lucas. And George, you should definitely watch that because I think you could learn a thing or two. Also, George, don't make any more Star Wars movies. Do something different, please. Stop making Star Wars movies. I learned a big lesson on E.T., which is don't digitally alter, E.T., okay? Leave it the way it is. That's the way people like it. Would you rather be a character in The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's Day Off? Oh, that's a great question. I would rather be a character in The Breakfast Club. Specifically, I would like to be Emilio Estevez's character because he's the one that gets together with Ali Sheedy in the end. Thank you very much for your questions. John Flickinger, the Flick Pick. Thank you, sir, for your questions. Appreciate it. What do you do for fun in Chicago? You mean aside from going to movies and stuff like that? Karaoke is fun every once in a while. I have friends I get together with. There's a lot of fun stuff to do here on occasion. There's lots of good theater here. I don't go to that much of it, but I do, read the paper to see if anything strikes my fancy. There's some musical acts that are good. It's just, there's a wide variety of stuff to do in Chicago because, there's just a lot of people condensed in a small area, like, the big cities. And public transportation is not the most convenient, but it certainly is inexpensive, so it's easy to get around cheaply and see a lot of different stuff. There's sights to see, you know, if you like looking at buildings or landmarks, whatever. I'm not as big on that. I prefer to going to events, that kind of thing. Best theater experience. By film experience, I think I've had a number of films that have just like totally blown me away in the theater. Inception is the most recent one. I was just totally bowled over. I watched that on the IMAX screen at Navy Pier. By the way, if you visit Chicago, you have to go to the IMAX theater because unlike other IMAX theaters, the screen in this IMAX theater is 8 stories tall. There are a lot of BS IMAX theaters around the country that aren't that big, and IMAX really needs to be seen 8 stories tall, and Inception was a good one to see. I also saw Apocalypse Now in IMAX, which was great. Other movies that I really were blown away by when I first saw them include like Total Recall when it first came out. Kill Bill Volume 1 was a really good one. I saw a great documentary called Koyaanisqatsi on its 20-year anniversary at an incredible theater. But my favorite would have to be 7. The opening day of 7. Just, ooh man, I'll never forget just how completely rattled I was by that movie and just how energized and electrified. In fact, a few months later, that's when I first started writing scripts because that movie inspired me so much. Ever been in a fight? Sure, yeah. You know, I've been picked on and stuff like that, and I fought back badly. Mostly when I was a kid, not recently. Never really been in any recent fights as an adult. You know, just when I was like in, you know, junior high and stuff like that. Would you rather be Batman or Superman? Factor in everything. You know, Batman, he's human, and that's great, and he's wealthy. That's also great. But he's human. And Superman is totally invincible. If I were going to be a superhero, I would want to be, you know, totally invincible. Plus, Superman's just sort of an inspiring guy. You know, he doesn't let a lot get to him. He's kind of unflappable. And, you know, I kind of looked up to the Christopher Reeve Superman movies as being like the ultimate, like, heroic figure. Of course, he can be because he's an alien and he's invincible, you know, but, you know, there's a lot of advantages to being Superman instead of Batman. Batman's cool. No question about it, and the movies are a lot cooler than the Superman movies. But Superman is the guy to be if you were actually choose to be a superhero. Thanks for your questions. Finally, Ellen from Norway, hidden in a book. Thanks very much for asking questions. If you could be a superhero, who would you like to be and why? Well, if you had to combine Superman's invincibility or near invincibility with Batman's humanity, you'd get Iron Man. Very wealthy guy, very charming, funny, good with the ladies, and he has an incredible armored suit. Iron Man is the guy to be, totally. I love Superman, you know, he's great. But Iron Man, you know, yeah, he's the guy to be. He's just like the ultimate. Favorite X-Men character? Ooh, wow, Magneto's cool. The guy who does the flame thing, right? Pyro, yeah. They're both bad guys. I wouldn't want to be Mystique, but I'd want to know her. Yeah. I should have thought about this one more. Wolverine's cool, of course. I don't know if I have a favorite X-Men character. I'm not in love with the X-Men movies. I think they're good. The, you know, X-Men First Class and the first 3, not Wolverine so much. I'm one of the few people that actually likes X-Men The Last Stand. I think it's a decent movie. There's some good stuff in there. Especially the scene where Xavier gets like disintegrated by Jean Grey. Ooh, that was something. You know, that kind of shocked me actually. But it came out before The Departed, so technically The Departed is the more recent shocking movie. What's the worst film you've ever seen? You know, I actually did a video on this a long time ago called The 10 Worst Movies I've Ever Seen. And on that list were movies like Attack of the Clones and Mission Impossible 2, and The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, and The Rookie with Clint Eastwood and Charlie Sheen, and Michael with John Travolta, and a few others. And if you want, I'll link that below in the video so you can check that out. Those are the questions, and I didn't put a time limit on this, saying have your questions in by such and such date, so if anyone else has any stuff they want to ask me, such as, for example, where did I get my username from or anything like that, it's based on CineRam, the photographic widescreen process from the 50s CineRam. Leave a comment, you know, or just ask me, you know, send me a PM, whatever. Thanks very much for watching, guys, and I hope this video wasn't incredibly long, but it probably is. Bye.